Srimad Bhagavatam 5.13.6 Kvachid vitoya sarito bhiyati parasparam chalashate nirandaha asya davam kvachid agni tapto nirvidyate kvachayakshayaritasu. Translation. Sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river, or being short of food grains, he goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from the burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. And sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. Please repeat. Sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river, or being short of food grains, he goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. And sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. Purport by His Divine Grace, Sri Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. When one is hot due to the scorching sun, one sometimes jumps into a river to gain relief. However, if the river is almost dried up and the water is too shallow, one may break his bones by jumping in. The conditioned soul is always experiencing miserable conditions. Sometimes his efforts to get help from friends are exactly like jumping into a dry river. By such actions, he does not derive any benefit. He only breaks his bones. Sometimes, suffering from a shortage of food, one may go to a person who is neither able to give charity nor willing to do so. Sometimes one is stationed in household life, which is compared to a forest fire. Samsara davana levidhalo. When a man is heavily taxed by the government, he becomes very sad. Heavy taxation obliges one to hide his income. But despite this endeavor, the government agents are often so vigilant and strong that they take all the money anyway, and the conditioned soul becomes very aggrieved. Thus, people are trying to become happy within the material world, but this is like trying to be happy in a forest fire. No one needs to go to a forest to set it ablaze. Fire takes place automatically. Similarly, no one wants to be unhappy in family life or worldly life, but by the laws of nature, unhappiness and distress are forced upon everyone. To become dependent on another's maintenance is very degrading. Therefore, according to the Vedic system, everyone should live independently. Only the Shudras are unable to live independently. They are obliged to serve someone for maintenance. It is said in the Shastras, Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. In this age of Kali, everyone is dependent on another's mercy for the maintenance of the body. Therefore, everyone is classified as a Shudra. In the 12th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, it is said that in Kali Yuga, the government will levy taxes without reciprocally benefiting the citizens. Anavrishya vinakshanti dhurbhikshakarapiditaha. In this age, there will also be a shortage of rain. Therefore, scarcity of food will arise, and the citizens will be very much harassed by government taxation. In this way, the citizens will abandon their attempts to lead a peaceful life and will leave their homes and huts and go to the forest in sheer disappointment. Om Gyanati Mirandasya Gyananjala Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Taismai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guruho Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunantam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijanam Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sagana Lalita Shivishakam Vitam Sha He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhischa Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Banta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschitya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Translation. Sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river, or being short of food grains, he goes to beg food from people who are not at all charitable. Sometimes he suffers from the burning heat of household life, which is like a forest fire, and sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. So here we have Jadav Bharat, who is instructing King Rahugana about the nature of this material world. So this is a very in-depth analytical study of all different sorts of conditions that we are put into. So this is spoken of by Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, but not in such details. So we are stuck within this prakriti, and we are trying to get some pleasure into this environment. Purushaha prakriti stohi bhumte prakriti jan gunan. So we are trying to enjoy the fruits of prakriti. Prakriti means the external energy of the Lord. Yes, so anything that is done that we see in this world is prakriti. Not that nature is just trees, plants, flowers, butterflies, animals. Nature, in the broader sense, is all the energy that we see. This is also nature. A phone is also nature. Microphone is also nature. This is the understanding, right? Bhumi rapo nilo vayu tham anubudhire vacha ahankara iti yamme binna prakriti rashtha. So Krishna says that these 8 separate material energy, earth, water, fire, ether, air, mind, intelligence, and false ego, are called prakriti. So this prakriti jan gunan takes many different shapes. In modern days, we see all these technological gadgets. These are prakriti jan gunan. They are the fruits created by prakriti. This laptop, these cell phones and all, this is fruits of prakriti that emerge in the Kali Yuga. Not that this is a new invention. It is there in the Mahat Tattva, and it emerges in due course of time. So we are enamored with these sense objects because our senses are trying to lord it over the sense objects. So indriyani paranyahu. So our senses are higher than these sense objects. Therefore, we control them. We want to lord over these sense objects. And then indriyabhya parasmanaha. Manasastu para buddhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. So this is how we are stuck. The saha is the soul. So we are stuck within the buddhi, which is stuck within the mana, which is stuck within, is surrounded by the indriya, and the indriya are surrounded by the sense objects. So that is the situation that we're in, and therefore we're struggling. Mamai vamsa jiva loke jiva bhuta sanatana manaha shastarindriyani prakriti stani karshati. We are stuck in prakriti and we are struggling. Karshati means struggle. Prakriti sthani karshati. And therefore, what do we see outside? We wake up in the morning and then we see people going to work, driving their cars like crazy. Big highways. What is that? This is the scene of prakriti sthani karshati. Struggle for existence. Everyone is trying to attain peace. Everyone is trying to get pleasure. And in this way, everyone is very, very busy trying to fight, using their manahashastanindriyani, use their mind and their senses in order to fight with this material condition. So here it is said that sometimes the conditioned soul jumps into a shallow river and breaks his bones instead. So that is going to the wrong person for help. Because the actual friend, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, right? Krishna is actually the real friend of all living entities, and he's the one who can actually solve our problem. But we go to someone who is similarly conditioned like us for help, and therefore we suffer. Sometimes we experience, right? We have a problem, we call someone, or we go there, and they try to help, and actually it becomes even more distasteful than the problem itself. They help, but they're incapable of helping, and somehow or other now you have someone you have to be around. And so we are baffled, bewildered, right? This is the whole idea of Krishna speaking the Bhagavad Gita, setting up the scene of Arjuna, was to show the condition of a conditioned soul. How he was, right? Karpana dosho bhavata svabhavaha prichami dvam dharma samudachetah. Samudachetah. So, being completely baffled in our material endeavor, we might come to realize that we cannot fix the situation in this material world. Even when we are, taking to the path of spiritual life, it's not that we are going to be perfecting this world as if it was the spiritual world. It is the best use of a bad bargain. We need to use this material world for spiritual advancement. But the ways of nature are so bewildering that sometimes, even though we are taking to the path of devotional service, things do not turn out the way that we calculate. So here it is said, sometimes one is embarrassed by lack of food, and he goes to see persons who are not very charitable or who are not willing to give. So in this way, Jada Bharat is trying to give us so many detailed scenarios that we are put into, but that we might not realize that it is suffering, because we are going through all these different experiences, and due to a improper understanding, a lack of purification, we are not understanding what is happening. Right? What is this? The foolish cannot understand how one can leave the body, nor can he understand how one what types of fruit he enjoys under the three modes of material nature. What is the beginning Sanskrit? Utkramantam. Utkramantam stitam vapi. Gunam kitam. Then samudha. Vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So vimudha, we should not remain vimudha. And here Krishna says that a person who cannot see how someone is basically suffering in material nature is called vimudha. Vimudha nanu pashyanti jnana chakshusha. So one who sees through Shastra, he is called Jnana Chakshu or Shastra Chakshu. And he can see this different flavors of suffering in the material world that Maharaj Jada Bharat is speaking of right now. So us as devotees, we should not be vimudha nanu pashyanti, that we do not realize these different suffering conditions that we're placed into. You see, of course, we have got some duties to do with the world. We have to go out sometimes, go to the shop, the mall and all. But while we do these things, we should see all the different flavors of suffering that we're going through. Is it not? Just like at one point, I was in China, so during the rush hour in Guangzhou, the subway station gets very, very packed. I told this story once before. I don't know if you. Anyway, the subway station gets extremely packed, so much so that the other person is here, and the other person is here, and the other person. So you stand in the wagon like that, and there's no place for moving. So I was there, and I was stuck. So I was obviously at least that much I could. Pashanti Gyana Chakshusha. I could see I was in a suffering position. This is horrible. And then one lady started to get sick. So she started to vomit. So I'm hearing blah, blah, and I'm hearing blah, people like being. So the vomit is right there. You cannot escape. The vomit is there. And then as the wagon starts to go, the vomit starts to slide, on the floor like that. So it comes and people start to step on it like, and now I'm thinking a minute ago, I'm outside, like walking, seeing the sun. Now I'm in a wagon with like vomit with people around me. I was thinking how material nature can just flip on you like that. You think you're okay, and then all of a sudden you're put into a situation. Anyway, I was fortunate enough that it did not reach me. And so it opened, and I just got out. It was not my station. I just got out. Took the bus. Huh? How about the? Oh, the smell. Yeah. I have most of the. You want me to elaborate on the situation? The color also, you want to know? So, yeah, I got out. But I could see, look what type of situation we'd put into. Okay, that situation is easy to realize you're suffering, right? But there are situations which we're not aware that we're suffering, but we are. And that's where we have to see. And therefore, Jada Bharat is trying to open our eyes, right? He's trying to open our eyes to make us see all these different types of suffering that are there. So even just walking in the street, we are attacked by so many different types of sufferings. First of all, we are most of the time not Krishna conscious. Is it not? That is a suffering in itself. What are we conscious of if we're not thinking of Krishna? That is suffering. So then burning in the heat of household life, which is like a forest fire. Yes, so this household life is not encouraged in Vedic culture. This is why the brahmachari is trained up to be celibate, to be away from mother and family, and control his senses. Just before coming to Singapore, I had this experience with my son. I was 3-4 days in the farmhouse with him alone, and my wife was with our daughter at the Guangzhou temple with the Matajis. So I was 3-4 days with him, and I thought, okay, now I'll just use most of my time for him only. He doesn't have his mother. So morning time, I would wake up, chant, then prepare for Mangalarti, then wake him up. Then we would have Mangalarti together. He would sit behind, like that. Then I would do DT worship. He has his small DT. He would do his DT worship. Then after that, he would help me wash the cloths, everything. And he would help me sweep the floor like that. And all the way until, we finished DT worship. Then we would go take a walk. I would walk, and he would ride his bike next to me like this. And the whole atmosphere became very much in the mode of goodness. There was no agitation. You see, when of course, Vedic culture has arrangement for everything, but it's a fact that when women are present, the frivolity is more easily felt in the atmosphere. So my son himself, he becomes very much more passionate when my wife and daughter are there, especially my daughter. So now they're not there. He was very sober, very calm. And so in this way, we take a walk, then we come back. We had the Guru Puja, and then I would give online class for the Chinese devotee. And meanwhile, he would do his homework, and we'd have Krishna conscious class, already recorded one on the iPad. So in this way until 9 o'clock. Then 9 o'clock, I'd take my breakfast. Then I'll bring him out. We'd go pluck out some fruits, whatever. He'll help me cook. The whole point is that whole day we were together, and it was very peaceful. I was not getting as angry or as agitated as I used to, So I could see, and I did that 2, 3, 4 days, and I could really feel that, this is what Brahmacharya ashram is. Before, the boys, they were sent to the Guru's ashram, and there was no mother, there was no other family members, and just like this. So I could really control him, his mind and all. Very peaceful. He looked so mature. So I could understand that this is the greatness of Vedic culture, that this is real education. Education means build up the character first. The ABC 1, 2, 3, this is some skills. First, build up the character. So, and all of this is to help us navigate or completely avoid this household life. Because household life means a lot of suffering. This is a fact. And therefore, Brahmachari ashram is very much encouraged, and if one can remain, then he is 75% free from material entanglement. 75%. What is that? This is not my speculation. So I'll make a quick search. What is the abbreviation? Second chant. So this is from a second chant, Prabhupada writes. Of course, one who thinks that family life is too big a responsibility can forgo it and thus avoid a lot of trouble. Family responsibility is very great. Therefore, if a man feels he cannot accept the responsibility, he should remain a brahmachari, a celibate student. A person who practices the science of brahmacharya under the care of a spiritual master automatically becomes 75% free from material entanglement. So, I do not know where Prabhupada has quoting this from, but we accept it as Shastra, 75% free from material entanglement. To just see the value of brahmacharya. Because it is a fact that marriage brings about a lot of misery. And therefore, it was shown by Lord Ramachandra that even if we have the perfect male and the perfect female, still suffering will arise. So Bhagavatam 5:19:5. It was ordained by Ravana, chief of the Rakshasas, could not be killed. I think there's a word missing there. Could not be killed by anyone but a man. And for this reason, Lord Ramachandra, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, appeared in the form of a human being. Lord Ramachandra's mission, however, was not only to kill Ravana, but also to teach mortal beings that material happiness centered around sex life or centered around one's wife is the cause of many miseries. He is the self-sufficient Supreme Personality of Godhead, and nothing is lamentable for him. Therefore, why else could he be subjected to tribulations by the kidnapping of Mother Sita? So the idea in these pastimes of Lord Ramachandra is to teach us that if we try to become happy with the wife only, then we are going to be encountering so many sufferings. Because the wife is not the reservoir of all pleasure. Krishna is. And if we give up Krishna's shelter for the shelter of the wife, then that is assured suffering for us. Because it is not that as soon as we become devotee, we become something else. We are no longer husband, she's no longer wife. No, it is still there. The material contamination is still present. But it has to be diminished by proper regulations. And therefore, in Vedic system, husband and wife are actually separate. They have separate quarters. They have time of meeting, not that any second they're always together, hugging and kissing like that. That is, from Shastra we learn that this is actually Shudra-like qualities of always be hugging and kissing. When Ajamil, he saw, right, they were mentioned as being Shudras. They were only hugging and kissing. This is something very normal nowadays. Couple walking, holding hands like that. So us grihastas, we have got wives, but we should be very careful in our dealings with our wives. It should be, formality should be there. Therefore, we encourage each Mataji to call their husband Prabhu. Like that. And also there should be, the superiority complex should be acknowledged. Not like this Western philosophy that everyone is equal, child also equal, to the mother equal to the husband. No, there has to be a hierarchy felt within the family. And then things are in order. Because Bhishma Dev said that if this valve of shyness is broken, then women can no longer be protected. And because of that, havoc is bound to come to human society. This is the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Arjuna speaking of how when women become polluted, unwanted progeny comes, and so on. We are seeing this right now in America with all this this sex talk. Everybody's talking about what is a man, what is a woman. This is all sex only, right? So it is very important to try to apply these Vedic principles in our daily lives, even though, of course, we were not raised this way, but to get as close to it as possible as we can. In this way, lust will be subsided, it will be diminished, and one will not be only thinking of happiness within family life, because as long as we think like that, we're not going to be able to make genuine spiritual advancement. Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam taya paritachetasam vyavasyatmika buddhi samadhauna vidhiyate. In the Bhagavad Gita, 2nd chapter, 44th verse, it is said that those who are Bhogaishvarya prasaktanam, this Aishvarya, those who are interested with this material opulence. What is material opulence? What is that? Bhogaishvarya Sutashri. What is that verse? Spoken by Kunti Devi. 1826. Bhogha. What is the first line? Janma. Janmaishvara Shutashri. Yeah. So birth, wealth, parentage or family, and beauty. So these four things, as long as we are desirous of these, then Vyavasayatmika buddhi samadhauna vidhiyate. We will not be able to have fixed up determination in Krishna consciousness. And this comes because of what? Due to attachment for family life. 1826, that one, right? One 826. So Janmaishvarya Shruta Shribhir. Janma, birth, Aishvarya, opulence, Shruta, education, Shribhihi, by the possession of beauty. These things are the goal of family life, mundane family life. Griha Medhi, Griha Vrita. It is said like that. Griha Vrita. We should not be Griha Vrita. We should be Dridha Vrita. So, my Lord, your Lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. One who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feeling. But these are the things that we want in family life. We want to improve we want to make our family respectable, right? Have a great lineage, honor our ancestors, our parents, great opulence. We want to see our wives and children bedecked with gold. We want to have nice car, high education. We want to send to the best school, Harvard or whatever, Oxford. As long as these material desires remain within the heart, we cannot approach the Lord with sincere feelings. Why is that? Bhogaishvara prasaktanam taya paritachitasam. Aparitachitasam means the mind is diverted. The mind is agitated by these desires. Therefore, we cannot sincerely approach the Lord with sincere feeling. So this Grihastha ashram, we have to be very, very careful to not be swayed away by the comfort of it. Because if we are still desirous of such material comfort, then our progress in spiritual life will be very, very slow. So therefore, in today's verse, it is said that we are burning in the heat of household life. Of course, when the husband is very much surrendered to the spiritual master and the wife is very chaste, then a very congenial atmosphere can be created in the household. But that has to be for one who is very, very serious. Then Krishna will make the arrangements. There should not be diversion. Ananyas chintayanto mam. So Ananyas, there no second goal, no second person to whom we go for shelter. Ananyas chintayanto mam. Yejanaha parupasate. Parupasate means what? Means properly worship. So who is the one who properly worship? Ananyas chintayanto mam. The one who goes to no one else but Krishna. So when he's in difficulty, it's Krishna. When he wants shelter, it's Krishna. When he wants happiness, it's Krishna. So Ananyas chintayanto man yejana parupasate tesham nityabhiyuktanam yogakshemam vahamyaham. So he will, whatever necessity we'll have, then Krishna will take care. But unless we come to this understanding that Krishna only is the person whom we have to go to, for our pleasure also, for our happiness, for everything. Unless we come to this point, then how can we make sure that Krishna will be the one who's arranging everything in our life? Then we are not certain of our position. And then here it is said, sometimes he becomes sad to have his wealth, which is as dear as life, plundered by kings in the name of heavy income taxes. So I think in Kali Yuga, we are very much seeing this, how the price of good, inflation. What is inflation? Prabhupada says inflation is hidden tax. It is nothing but hidden tax. But the common people doesn't understand. Oh, now the bread is expensive. What to do, how come? They lament, but they have no understanding of why. This is the government people who are putting in their pocket somehow or other, For example, in China, vegetables are relatively cheap. Things are relatively cheap, like small things, right? You want to buy a chair, very cheap and all. It's cheap in both ways. It'll be not expensive and it'll break after a year or two. But, so this kind of cost of living is all right. But then as soon as you come to houses, you want to buy a house, then that's it. So that's how the government gets the taxes from the people. So the system is, the government owns all the land. And the land is divided as rural and urban. So by some magic, the government can turn rural land into urban land. So like that, the price of the earth, because you cannot build skyscrapers on rural lands. So they turn the price of land like this, and all of a sudden this piece of land becomes very, very expensive. They sell it to those huge tycoon of who build, 100 towers like that. Very, very expensive. They sell it. Yeah. And then the people, those tycoon, they build and they sell the apartment very, very expensive to the people. And it's the poor people who end up with the bill. They have to work very, very hard. Now, in cities like Guangzhou, a person cannot buy an apartment. It will be a question of 2 generations. The son will have to finish paying for the apartment. So this is all income tax, but hidden. So this is described, as Srila Prabhupada quoted in the Bhagavatam, that in this age, the leaders, they will be plundering the people. Sorry. In the purport, Prabhupada quotes, right? In the 12th canto, yeah, but that's not the verse I'm looking for. I'm just mentioning. So this is also spoken in this verse. Actually, the opposite of that. So Canto 4, chapter 14, text 17. So the saintly persons continued. When the king protects the citizens from the disturbances of mischievous ministers as well as from thieves and rogues, he can, by virtue of such pious activities, accept taxes given by his subjects. Thus, a pious king can certainly enjoy himself in this world as well as in the life after death. So on the topic of taxes, a king has to do what? He has to protect the citizens from disturbance of mischievous ministers as well as from thieves and rogues. So, not just thieves and rogues, but within the own government, he has to clean up all the corruption. What is this country in South America that just got cleaned up? El Salvador. So, and they're cleaning up the government also. Just now saw a video, I don't know if it was him. So he was saying he had a meeting with all his government people, and he said, I want to say openly, I'm going to investigate all of us in this room, like that. Corruption. So that's what a leader should be doing. Not just the people, but also the government people. So he has to be very, very strong, so that there's no disturbance for the poor citizens. Not like now in America, you see videos of, black people going into shops, right? Just taking, I saw a video of this black guy, skinnier and shorter than me, going in a Apple store and just taking the iPhones, and then everybody just standing and looking. Nobody doing anything. Because of the laws protecting the thieves now. Now laws protect thieves, Black Lives Matter, all this nonsense. So people are afraid of being persecuted for defending themselves against a mischievous person. So everything is topsy-turvy. And only if the king is capable of doing that can he exact taxes from the citizens. Prabhupada writes in the purport, the duty of a pious king is described very nicely in this verse. His first and foremost duty is to give protection to the citizens from thieves and rogues, as well as from ministers who are no better than thieves and rogues. Formerly, ministers were appointed by the king and were not elected. Consequently, if the king was not very pious or strict, the ministers would become thieves and rogues and exploit the innocent citizens. It is the king's duty to see that there is no increase of thieves and rogues, either in the government secretariat, is that how you pronounce secretariat, or in the departments of public affairs. If a king cannot give protection to citizens from thieves and rogues, both in the government service and in public affairs, he has no right to exact taxes from them. In other words, the king or the government that taxes can levy taxes from the citizens only if the king or government is able to give protection to the citizens from thieves and rogues. And here Srila Prabhupada quotes the same verse that we saw in the purport today. That is, these proud mlechas, persons who are less than Shudras, representing themselves as kings, will tyrannize their subjects, and their subjects, on the other hand, will cultivate the most vicious practices. Thus, practicing evil habits and behaving foolishly, the subjects will be like their rulers. The idea is that in the democratic days of Kali Yuga, the general population will fall down to the standard of Shudras, as stated, Kalau Shudra Sambhava. Practically, the whole population of the world will be Shudra. A Shudra is a fourth-class man who is only fit to work for the three higher social castes. Being fourth-class men, Shudras are not very intelligent. They cannot even recognize a man for a woman. What else to say? Since the population is fallen in these democratic days, they can only elect a person in their category. But a government cannot run very well when it is run by Shudras. Okay, so this, then Prabhupada speaks of Kshatriyas and so on. And not only should he chastise the miscreants, but he has to make sure that Varnashram system is established. So that's the next verse, 4:14-18. The king is supposed to be pious, in whose state and cities the general populace strictly observes the system of 8 social orders of Varna and Ashrama, and where all citizens engage in worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead by their particular occupations. So this is the symptom of a king who is pious. So Jada Bharat is enumerating, speaking of different types of suffering conditions that we are going through in this material world, especially in this age of Kali, to try to make us understand the distinction between, especially Prabhupada, when he gives this description of the Vedic days, we have to apply our brain to try to see how much fallen we are now. When we see our world, our city, our so-called civilization, we have to understand the big contrast with Vedic days. So we should try to understand how we are Purusha Prakriti Stohi Prakriti Bhungte Prakriti Jangunan, how we are trying to enjoy the fruits of Prakriti, but by doing that, we are Prakriti Stani Karshati, we are struggling in this material nature. And we should understand how we have to see Jnana Chakshu through the eyes of the scripture, by understanding that how we are suffering in this material world, and not be fooled by thinking that I'm enjoying, and thus be a vimudha, nanupashanti. We should understand that family life is suffering, and that we have to be very, very careful with the dealings with our wives or husband. We have to know that it has to be, under regulations, so that lust does not become very much prominent in the household. It has to be subdued, otherwise suffering increases. We have to understand how the governments are exploiting the people in this age of Kali, exacting very heavy taxes. But that everything can be arranged if we surrender to the Lord. Ananyas chintayanto mam. That we go to Him for shelter. Not that when I seek happiness, the first thing that comes to mind is going back home and, nicely laying down in bed with my wife like that. No. When I seek happiness, I should think about coming to the temple, offering obeisances to the Lord, chanting my rounds in front of the deities, listening to Bhagavatam class like that. Then yoga kshema vaihamyaham. Everything will be adjusted. Even though there's discrepancies within the household, within the money, within the family life, or whatnot, Krishna will make the arrangement that we will be able to cross over the obstacles of this material world. So, what is that? Declare it boldly that my devotee never perishes, right? Name bhakta prayashyati. Right. So with this, I'd like to end. Is there any comment or questions?
Analyze all the politicians on the position and also the BJP. Everybody has taken up paper.
Huh. Really? Very good. Yeah. So you see, everybody is a thief and rogue. Even this is the Muslim side or Hindu side also?
Except for Modi.
So Modi is powerless. He cannot clean this up. Or why?
He was accused because many of the criminal guys from the other side came to this party. So it's like whitewash. Washing Modi and taking up.
You see, even a president like Modi, he's not in line with all of this. What to speak of other presidents? So all this politics. I mean, of course, maybe sometimes some political situation might make our work easier, so we can follow for that much. But as far as having hope, I don't know. Just see. Huh? Oh, the judge. And why is that? Because he's not consulting any Brahmin. He should go to Srila Prabhupada's disciples for guidance. But he's not. Imagine if you would take guidance, of great devotees like His Grace Nagopal Prabhu, how much India could be changed. But that will not, I don't think that will occur, right? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Nitāi Nitāi